Okay, so imagine that you want to manufacture a global pop icon, export millions of physical CDs to people who do not own CD players, and convince an army of obsessive fans to stream the same music video on 7 different phones simultaneously for 48 consecutive hours. The upfront investment to train, feed, house, and style a single idol group before they earn a single dollar easily hits $3 million. The debut showcase alone can set a company back another $500,000. Industry analysts put the failure rate for new K-pop agencies somewhere north of 95%, a statistical graveyard that makes Silicon Valley tech startups look like a safe place to park your retirement fund.
Sounds like a business plan designed by a gambler who finds horse racing a bit too predictable. And for hundreds of small to mid-tier entertainment companies in Seoul, it is the only business plan that exists. To understand why the vast majority of K-pop agencies bleed capital until their bank accounts hit absolute zero, you first have to understand the specific pressure-cooked economic vacuum of post-financial crisis South Korea. In the late 1990s, following the Asian financial crisis, the South Korean government made a calculated macroeconomic pivot. Deprived of massive natural resources, the state poured capital directly into cultural infrastructure, broadband internet, intellectual property protections, and exportable entertainment. This was the birth of the Hallyu, or Korean Wave, as deliberate state-level economic policy. But where government strategy created the highway, private enterprise built an extraordinarily ruthless toll booth. Entertainment companies realized early on that they couldn't rely on the organic Western model of talent discovery. You couldn't just wait for a genius songwriter to walk into a bar with a guitar. That was too slow, too unreliable, and far too difficult to monetize efficiently. Instead, the industry adopted an industrial manufacturing framework known as the trainee system. It is a model borrowed directly from Japanese talent agencies, optimized with corporate efficiency, and financed like a high-risk venture capital fund. In this setup, the agency isn't just a management firm or a record label. It is a venture studio, an academy, a landlord, a marketing firm, and a bank, all rolled into one balance sheet. This brings us to the central mechanism of the K-pop industry, a financial structure known as the debt trainee pipeline. Here is how the money actually enters, multiplies, and disappears. Before a group ever steps onto a stage, an agency spent between 3 to 5 years sinking cash into their development. We are talking about vocal coaches, choreography instructors, foreign language lessons, plastic surgery, housing, meals, and wardrobe. For a 5-member group, that pre-debut burn rate routinely hits $3 to $4 million. In any other industry, this would be categorized as research and development expenses. In K-pop, it was historically categorized as a personal loan issued to the performers. When a group finally debuts, every dollar they generate, from music streams, concert tickets, brand endorsements, and merch, does not go into their pockets. It goes directly back to the agency to settle the pre-debut debt balance. This is known as the break-even point, or jongson. Until that multi-million-dollar ledger clears zero, the performers earn literally nothing, receiving only basic room and board. For the top 1% of groups, the mega acts managed by industry titans like HYBE, SM, YG, and JYP, that debt is cleared in a matter of months, or waived entirely due to massive corporate cash reserves. But for the remaining 99% of agencies, the math is a death trap. If a group debuts and fails to land a massive hit within its first 2 years, the revenue generated from low-tier corporate gigs and negligible streaming payouts cannot even cover the ongoing operational costs, staff salaries, hair and makeup teams, manager vans, and comeback album production. The debt doesn't shrink, it compounds. The agency is now trapped in an economic loop. They must spend another $200,000 to produce a new mini-album, just to keep the group relevant enough to earn $20,000 at a provincial festival. It is a business model where every sales attempt actively increases the deficit. The sheer scale of this dynamic becomes striking when you look at the macro numbers.
According to financial filings, HYBE, the corporate powerhouse behind BTS, generated over $1.6 billion in revenue in 2023, boasting operating profit margins that rival major software platforms. A single stadium tour by a top-tier group can net dozens of millions of dollars in ticket sales and branded light sticks alone. Korea's total music market revenue broke into the top 10 globally, rivaling the GDP output of small island nations purely through exported pop culture. Yet, beneath that glittering top-tier surface, the real ledger looks catastrophic. Korea's creative content agency estimates that there are over 1,000 registered entertainment agencies in the country. Out of those, fewer than 50 generate a sustainable profit year over year. Billboard and local trade outlets have repeatedly noted that the average lifespan of a non-Tier 1 agency is less than 3 years. The industry is structurally top-heavy. The 4 largest companies capture over 80% of all physical album sales and streaming profits, leaving hundreds of smaller agencies fighting over the remaining crumbs of fan expenditure. Consider the documented collapse of small to mid-tier agencies that attempted to fight above their weight class. An agency spends its last remaining capital to secure a prominent spot on a music broadcasting show. To do this, they buy hundreds of meals for television producers, hire elite stylists, and pay high-end music producers for a track that sounds like a Billboard hit. The comeback costs $400,000. The album sells 1,200 physical copies. The digital stream royalties bring in $314. Analyst reports from firms like Hana Securities consistently highlight this structural wall. Without immediate viral traction, a mid-tier agency will exhaust its line of credit by its 3rd release cycle. This is where the business model reaches its absolute breaking point, the catastrophic failure mode. When an agency runs out of cash, the system mutates. We have seen instances where desperate CEOs quietly transfer ownership of groups, sell off intellectual property rights to private equity creditors, or simply vanish, leaving teenage performers trapped in non-compete contracts with no income and millions in alleged debt. The legal battles that follow, such as the high-profile contractual disputes involving groups like 50/50 or Luna, expose the underlying fragility of the ecosystem. In those cases, even when a group achieves astronomical global success, mistrust over ledger transparency, revenue-sharing splits, and third-party poaching can completely tear the business structure apart overnight. A single lawsuit can freeze a company's only income-generating asset, triggering immediate insolvency. What survived this relentless cycle of agency liquidation is an industry that has fundamentally altered the global music economy. K-pop didn't just sell songs, it pioneered the monetization of fan identity. The strategies engineered by Korean agencies to survive, photocard collecting, gamified album purchases that buy raffle tickets for fan meets, and dedicated fan communication subscription apps, have now been aggressively copied by Western record labels trying to rescue their own declining physical sales. The small agencies will continue to go broke by the dozens, burned up in the atmosphere of a market built exclusively for giants. They step onto the stage, spend millions they don't have, and bet everything on a single viral spark. The credits rolled on another liquidated agency. The debt balance didn't.